I'm working on the 99 Nissan Maxima, and what I'm going to do is make a troubleshooting aid for if I ever have to troubleshoot the engine misfire. This is the connector here that connects to the 3 fuel injectors underneath this intake plenum. And you can see, here's the other 3 injectors. They're easily available and accessible. And if you have a misfire, you can systematically disconnect these injectors and test and see which cylinder may be missing. But the 3 injectors under the intake are not accessible. And so what I want to do, I went and got an extra pair of these connectors here, the male and the female, and I've also got the wiring harness that goes all the way into the injector. And I'm going to make an adapter where I can disconnect here, plug into my adapter, and then it'll have bullet connectors where I can systematically disconnect each one of the 3 injectors that are concealed under the intake there. And I'll also put in a connector so I can actually drive an extra fuel injector and see if it's clicking at the same time. So I'll show you over here. I went to the junkyard and I got the whole fuel rail here. I'm going to it's got the 3 injectors. This is the one that's hidden underneath the intake plenum, and it's also got the fuel pressure regulator that's controlled by a vacuum here. And you can see I've got the wiring harness right here, and I've opened it up. I've taken all the sheathing and protection off of it so I can get to the wiring and look at the color code. And so I've got the male and the female connector here. So what I'm going to do is just cut the wiring here and add that connector, connect that up there, and I'll have like a 4 or 5 inch piece of cable here where the 3 fuel injectors here, they will be connected with a bullet connector that's disconnectable. And this is the positive here that feeds all 3 of these. I'll also tee off of that and be able to connect one of these injectors up outside just to test and see if it's clicking. That way I won't have to have a injector circuit disconnected and open. That might not be a good idea. And so there's also wiring here for the oxygen sensor and I think the oil level sensor that also goes through here. So I'm just going to pass through. This will be an adapter that passes through all the connections. So the car will run just fine with this in there, but it'll give me the option to disconnect if I want to. So I get started on making that. I just need to cut the wiring and add those in. So I'm going to get started making my adapter, and I was just looking it over, and luckily they use the same color code on both ends of this connector, so I can just cut these and splice these wires together. But I'm going to, on some of the wires, I'm going to be using these connectors, specifically the wiring that goes to these 3 injectors. And I'm also going to label these with tape, injector 1, 3, and 5. So I will know which injector I'm disabling later on when I'm working on it. I'm going to try and give myself, some ample room here to work, wiring wise. I noticed this oxygen sensor here. It goes to a shielded cable. So they splice the wire into the shield, what they call the drain, and that goes. I can see it here at this drain. And I guess I'll leave that. I'm gonna leave this length. There's a lot of sticky stuff on here. I'm gonna leave this length like this on that end, and on this end here, I've got a damaged wire right here. So that's going to be my length. Right there where the insulation is bad. You can see this wire's got a lot of cracks and it's split open there. Okay, I'm just going to be that's the oxygen sensor. And so, let's see here. This is the connector that went to the injector rail. And so this is the connector that plugs in. This is the one that's going to go there and have so what we're going to do here is tie these two together and also have a connector I can splice into also. Going to need a larger wire stripper for that. Got these tools here. So I'll do the heavy red one here. This is the one that provides power to all of those injectors. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this connection up here with this crimp here. I want to make sure I get that crimped solidly. This is a double crimp. There's a second crimp that just catches the insulation there. So now I've got the red connection made, and then I can also plug in, if I want to drive one of these injectors, I can plug that in for the injector. I'm just going to leave that plugged in right there for now. And then the next one here is going to be, I'll do this blue. This insulation has gotten kind of hardened and it's cracking a little bit. So I'm going to put the females here. Again, this is a double crimp connection. I like to use those. They're a solid way to make a connection there. Yeah, I'm not liking the look of that. I think I'm going to change. No, I can't change. I've got to make this one. This one's got to be there. We got it that time. The next one is the red and black, and that's injector number 1. I'm wearing gloves because this wiring is kind of dirty, and I'm not used to doing wiring with gloves. And then the last injector wire here is injector 3. So on the butt splices here, on both the male and the female, you'll see there's a seam there, a slit, And you want to put when you're doing the crimp, you want the crimp right on the top of that. You don't want to crimp on the side of it because that might make it open up instead of crimp closed. And I've got a Sharpie here. I'm going to go ahead and just mark these. Well, I've got the color code right in front of me here. There's number 1 is red, black. I could just mark that right there, number 1. And then number 3 is red, yellow. And then the last one here is the blue, that's number 5. And this, of course, is positive. Common to all of them. And so now what I can do is I can get one of these connectors here. Choose this longer one here. And I can put a connector on this. The red one will go there. I can go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to strip it. Since it's such a large connector, this wire is not really that large. I'm stripping it back farther and fold it over and put it in there. And of course I'm looking again for the seam. Got the seam up. And double crimp it. You don't have to double crimp all of these, but you can tell if they have, you'll see 2 bands on the connector. So now I can, if I wanted to run one of these, I need to go get another connector. So if I wanted to run, say, number 3, I could disconnect it from the car and plug this in here, and then have an injector here, and I could hear it clicking or whatever, and then also just still present a load to the ECU on the computer just to minimize any risk. So that'll be my setup if I need to test with this thing. And I'll probably just go ahead and have this connector connected on there, but I still have to go back now and make these other connections up. So this takes care of the fuel injector part, but now there's the oxygen sensor and the oil pressure. These are kind of dirty. This is kind of getting messy. So I see the white. You can get to those right there. White and black. That's where all the dirt's coming from. I think it's kind of rubber. I've got some paint remover. Maybe I can clean this up a little bit. The major offender is right here, this drain, or the one that they've hooked up to a shield. sealed it pretty good there, making a big mess. That's of course over here in this one. And so here I am seeing that they did do a color change. It's black and silver here, and on this side coming out of this connector it's just gray. Yeah, that thing's making a mess. All right, let's see if I can get this thing buttoned up here. I'm going to tie those together right there. That's the shield. They're doing very good on this old wire. So that's another way of looking at it. I'm connecting these together and those together. It's just passing the signals through. And I'm going to use heat shrink, I guess. Generous amount there. And I'm going to use a crimp ferrule. I think I'm going to back off that length just a little bit. So since this is a situation where it's going to be moving, I don't want to solder these wires because that would definitely cause them to break. This thing's kind of fighting me a little bit. Needs to just hold still just a second there. I've just flattened down the crimp there. And I can slide this heat shrink there, and it'll stay like that. And if I ever need to access that connection to test something, I can do that. So then the next one here is this connection here. Might need to see if this heat shrink will go over that. Yeah, we got it. Again, this situation is not for driving around. This is just for troubleshooting and testing. So it doesn't really need to be, you know, weather tight or anything like that. And so then we've got the oxygen sensor connections here, white and black. You see they definitely change the gauge here. Alright, I just have this black connection to do. This wire is really cracked up. I guess it's the one coming from the oxygen sensor, and it's probably gets hot. So hopefully I won't ever need this, but I wanted to have it made up in case I do, because these Nissans are a little, they don't really give good diagnostics when if there's a miss. I've noticed it doesn't exactly tell you which cylinder like a lot of cars do. It kind of leaves it up to you to figure that out the old-fashioned way. And so I wanted to go ahead and have something made up in case that ever happens. These connectors aren't something you'd have laying around. Let's try that one again. There we go, that's the adapter. It's a dirty rascal. And so basically it's pin to pin, with provisions to disconnect 1, 3, and 5, and also connect in the another one of these injectors. I'm going to go ahead and attach this. It probably will always stay there with it. And then I just need to get another male bullet so I can plug in there. Yeah, that's right. This one will be, let's see, how does this work now? This plugs into the injector rail. The car plugs into this one. So this is coming from the car computer. And so I'd want to connect into the, I need a male bullet connector there. I'll go grab one of those. Got one here. Just want to make sure it's the right size, because they come in all different sizes, and I've got all different sizes. Yeah, that's the correct one. And so now I can just put a bullet connector on here. And I'll be able to disconnect from the car and power an injector. myself if I wanted to test one. There we go. So that's this is the adapter you can use to disable 1, 3, and 5 of the injectors if you're doing some troubleshooting. And we just confirm again, 1 here is the red black, 3 is red yellow, 5 is blue. Here we go.